John Davidson here with the editor of the Express, Martyn Sadler, talking about Origin Game 1. Martyn, another big game on the Rugby League calendar, probably one of the biggest of the year.
Well, certainly the biggest game of the year so far. State of Origin has always been such a massive event, hasn't it, John, that it seems to get bigger every year. The games seem to get better every year, and the intensity, the rivalry, the toing and froing between the two states seems to continue to get bigger, and I think we're going to see a tremendous game at Suncorp Stadium. And Queensland are going into this to try and pick up their 9th successive series win, and the question is whether they're going to be able to do it, and it's anybody's guess.
Yeah, the first game is at Suncorp, which they have a fantastic record, and New South Wales come in with a bit of a different look. Some injuries in there, missing Greg Bird, Glenn Stewart, Boyd Gordner, and Andrew Fafita, who was a big loss, playing for the Kangaroos at the World Cup, was very good. And also a new halfback pairing, which is a big gamble.
Well, you have to say that New South Wales are the underdogs, and they always are going to Suncorp, aren't they? Let's face it, to Brisbane. It's going into a cauldron, but the upside of that, of course, is that they're going to have a lot of players who are going to be wanting to make a name for themselves. Trent Hodkinson is a kid who I've admired for a long time. His partnership at halfback with Josh Reynolds is really going to be an interesting one in a state context. I mean, they play behind a massive pack at the Bulldogs together, and the question is whether they're going to be able to do it behind the New South Wales pack. On the other hand, Queensland have just got this spine that never seems to change. Billy Slater, Jonathan Thurston, Cooper Cronk, Cameron Smith. I think it was the year dot, wasn't it, when you've got to look back to find a time when they weren't that, the spine of the team. And, if there's one thing that sort of shows how important consistency is in sport, it's the Queensland State of Origin team with these players always being there and always being able to pull it off when it's needed. I mean, who can forget 2 or 3 years ago when Cooper Cronk won the final game of the series with a drop goal right at the very end? And that's just the sort of thing that they can do when they've got that experience that to draw on in a game such as this. One of the key players for me is Paul Gallen. I'm a great admirer of Paul Gallen. I think he's a tremendous player. Not just a good player on the field, but a good player in terms of his leadership and intensity and dedication to the cause. And I think he is desperate to get at least one Origin Series win.
Yeah. And
I think he's also desperate to show that he can do it up at Lang Park, or Suncorp Stadium as it's called. And as long as Paul Gallen is there on the field for New South Wales, I really think the New South Wales team has a chance.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because I think he's approaching, he's either 33 or turning 33. He's been around for a long time and dabbled in boxing.
A lot of people are saying a boxing career is beckoning for him.
Yeah, you can't see him playing the way he plays such a physical game, playing on too long. So he'll want to go out a winner, and he seems to revel in the hatred that he cops in Queensland, and he's ramped it up with his two heads job recently. So
a nice insult.
No, I think it's also very interesting to see Daniel Tupou making his debut on the other wing.
Again, we saw him in the World Cup, didn't we? Playing for Tonga.
Yeah.
And very tall winger, very.
He's kind of the new Israel Folau with his leaping ability.
Yeah.
That's been a problem for New South Wales in Origin with the high bombs coming in and some smaller wingers getting trampled. So
absolutely, yeah. No, he's got enormous pace as well as Daniel Tupou, and he was. Unfortunately with Tonga, he didn't win anything in the World Cup, and they were shocked by Scotland. But I think he's a potential top player of the future, and a potentially great winger. And again, it's easy to imagine that if the Blues are going to win, it might well come from something brilliant that he does.
Yeah, it'll be fascinating to see how he goes, and his Roosters teammate Aidan Guerra for Queensland coming off the bench. So a lot of interesting subplots for this game. It's going to be interesting. First game on Wednesday night in Brisbane. Looking forward to it.
And I'm predicting a 10-point margin for Queensland.
I'm praying for a New South Wales win.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.